Welcome to Believe in Chargers, part of the Believe Network. Matt Money Smith here, joined by a man that put in 17 years of plastic padded violence, all pro, all decade. Bolts legend, Lorenzo Neal. Be sure to subscribe, by the way, comment, rate, follow this podcast, tell all the Chargers peeps about it. You can also watch us on Believe TV around the country and airports, on YouTube. You can read the top Believe stories at si.com. And of course, you can follow us everywhere across all our Believe socials. But most importantly, we are joined by the man that paved the road, the smooth road by which LaDainian Tomlinson was able to set all those records. And we like to make sure he gets his flowers here. How we doing, Lo?
I'm doing great, Money. Keep it going, man. My head was, I could see my head was starting to swell, but no, thanks for the wonderful introduction. I mean, you need none. I mean, everyone knows the money train, and what you bring to the table, man, is one word to describe it: legendary. You make my job easier. All the hits that I've taken, you just set me up, throw those nice softballs, buddy, and I still try to go yard. I might miss a couple, but Money, you set them up, and you throw them up. All I got to do is knock them down. So I enjoy it.
You're hitting at about a 700 clip these days, maybe 800. Who knows? Maybe 900 for all I know.
Well, how is things with you? Coming back from Indianapolis, I know you were heavy on the combine last week. I'm jump right in it and ask you, man, what was your biggest takeaway? Because I know the Charter fans, they want to know, what the money train saw at the combines, what athletes just popped out. But what was your biggest takeaway from the combines this year?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway, well, from this specific combine, as it does not pertain to the Chargers, most of the time it's a smokescreen. It's a lot of, there's saboteurs everywhere. It's misdirection. It's agents trying to talk up, their guys to get them up the draft board so they can earn their money. It's teams asking you for favors to try to make their picks sound more valuable so they can trade down. I mean, everybody's got an agenda. So setting that as a pretext, oftentimes, I can't count how many times we've come out of a combine and, Malik Willis now, he might go in the first. Oh, Will Levis, he's top 5 pick now. Will Levis is going to be a top 5 pick now, so these things happen, and we typically fall for them because we believe in quarterback as a premium position. But I do believe this year that the head coach of the Chargers was correct, even though he was laughed at when he said it. And he embellished a little bit by saying J.J. McCarthy's the number 1 quarterback in the draft. But J.J. McCarthy's going to go in the first round. He's going to go high. That's probably my biggest takeaway because I think that directly affects the number 5 pick.
Top 10? Is he a top 10 pick?
Yeah, that's my feeling, is that he's not. There's different. Typically, when you talk about flavors, you're talking about running back flavors, wide receiver flavors, but and you don't talk about quarterback flavors. Either they're a good quarterback or they're not. It's like, he might run a lot or he's got a big arm, but for the most part, you got to believe that they're going to be a franchise quarterback, and that's why you're taking them. I think the idea is that in a rare case, Alex Smith is very intriguing to a certain sect of coaches and general managers and how they believe the position should be manned, managed, operated. He's got a very specific, not specific, but he's just specifically, it sounds like he is made for the Kyle Shanahan style of offense, that how quickly he processes, the level of athleticism, which was underrated going into the combine. And then he showed that off at the combine that, this is an athlete. This is sort of that Alex Smith level athlete that we've got here. So I think that he showed that off, and that he did very well in the meetings. He's comfortable throwing over the middle of the field. It does not bother him at all. He throws with anticipation. He throws with accuracy. A lot of time, the young quarterbacks avoid that area. They like to keep it on the outsides, keep it away from danger. So I think that and when you talk about, Atlanta with Raheem Morris now going there from the Rams, Zach Robinson, the coordinator under Sean McVay, who's the OC there now, the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, KOC, who runs that. There are places where he can Las Vegas, Getsy under LaFleur for all those years in Green Bay. Those are all quarterback-needy teams, and those are all teams that were probably interested in trading up to 5 to try to jump the Giants, who reportedly, I don't remember who it was that said it. It might have been Rich Eisen that said it coming out, that the Giants are having buyer's remorse on Daniel Jones. So now,
no question.
Maybe you got to get in front of them if that's who you want. If you want that fourth quarterback, you may have to get in front of the Giants, and that's where the number 5 pick that the Chargers currently hold becomes considerably more valuable.
When you're thinking about this quarterback and thinking about the young guy, you're talking about he has that, getting rid of the ball, getting out of his hands, understanding, hey, look, not afraid to throw the ball in the middle, talking about a Cal Shanahan's type of offense. You go through the reads. It's a quick offense. Hey, look, you throw to the certain spots. Guys are going to come. You throw them open. Compare him when you're looking at the other quarterbacks. You think about the kid from USC, also the kid from Washington.
Yep.
How is these guys different and how are they alike? Is his height? What is sometimes you get guys, they say they're 6'2", 6'1", and you stand next to him, and you're like, okay, this guy's he puts him, put a couple quarters in his shoe, and he's still not 6'1". What'd you think about just everything, those tangibles that sometimes are miscued?
Yeah, measurables, it's Drake May. He's built similarly. Look, Justin Herbert is the outlier of outliers. He's just a mammoth horse of a human being. So he's not as big as Justin, but he's more built like Justin Herbert. Drake May is. He's a legit 6'4", 6'4" plus, maybe a legitimate 225 plus pounds. That's it. Outside of that, Jaden Daniels is very narrow shouldered. I think that's the big concern about him. Is here's someone who really likes to run around. He is going to struggle to put on 205 pounds, and that's a concern. Caleb is built. He's thick. He's stout, but he is not 6'4". He's probably closer to 6'1" and change. And then JJ is a little bit taller. He's probably closer to 6'3", but he's also a little more slender. So I think he's probably going to struggle to get above that 210-pound mark. So it's kind of how each of them are built. Bo Nix is a little bit shorter. It's 6'1"-ish, but he's also a little bit thicker. Penix, of course, is kind of built a lot more like, a little more in the 6'3"-ish, 215 plus pound sort of range. And I'll tell you, Lo, you think about all the stuff we see at the combine and all the drills that you go through, and it gives me a perfect window because it just popped into my head to talk about one of our great partners that we just got, and it's Kutt, Kutt. So you can bet your friends on anything. So let's say you're watching the combine and you and your guys are like, oh, I could throw that football that far. I could run the 3-cone. Well, why not run a tournament? Why not run a little bet between you and all your friends? It is peer-to-peer social betting. That is what Kutt is. It is legal in 40-plus states, customizable odds. So you could be the favorite. Look, if I'm going up against Lo, I want some odds. I need some serious odds. Like I need to be 400 to 1 to win the 3-cone if I'm going up against Lo. It gives you tracking capabilities, an entire social network with group chats, user profiles, rewards, all payments.
Wow.
You don't need Venmo. It does it all. Use our promo code, Believe, BLEAV, for a 10% welcome deposit bonus. Again, don't forget the promo code BLEAV. Kutt, put your money where your mouth is. But to the combine this year, Lo, they didn't do a lot. JJ threw, like Caleb didn't do anything. Drake May didn't do anything. Jaden Daniels didn't do anything. So, I thought Michael Penix had a couple nice throws in there. Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy. So, it's you're going to have to wait for the pro days for the most part. But I do think it's still that same. The top 3 has become the top 4. I think is one of my biggest takeaways. And as far as the Chargers at number 5 are concerned, I think there's a legitimate chance that quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, and then maybe Arizona sides because they have so many picks. They may just decide to stick and take the receiver they like most. Or maybe they auction off 4 to the highest bidder for that quarterback. And then the Chargers are sitting there with Marvin Harrison Jr. staring at him in the face. And maybe they don't want to trade back if that's the case. So, and I say Marvin Harrison Jr. because that's what a lot of people have as the number 1 player in the draft. They believe as far as prospects go, this is perhaps the one you'd feel the most comfortable with.
Wow.
About, about being bust free. So,
right. A guy that that's ready for the pros, who's already pro ready,
yeah.
You know what he can do. So he's that guy. When you're there, Matt, I know people want to know, and I so do I. How many people coming up to you? That you talk about agents, jockeying for position. Your agent wants to go pup you up. They wants to talk to GMs. They want to talk to scouts and tell, hey, this is what my guy can do. And they're talking to head coaches. They're doing it. How many people come up to you and say, "Hey, look, we like the Chargers. Can we get an interview?" Do you see agents? Is that something that you see? Guys want to, they want to get on TV. They want to do certain things. They want to get all these organizations thinking that, that switch bait deal where they say, "Hey, look,
Yeah.
I like the Chargers," just to get the Chargers talking, just to get guys talking. Did you find that, at times were you talking to agents, talking to different guys that wanted to come on the show, or just guys that filling you out as well?
Yeah, they used to a lot more when I was doing it for NFL Network, and I was, on the combine stream that was open for the entire time the combine was happening. I'm talking 5-7 hours a day. So now that we don't do that anymore, no, not really as much. They're just friends. For the most part, I talk to other people in the media that cover the league, that maybe cover other teams, just to get a vibe about what they're doing, because you're put in a room and you're all next to each other. So I was talking to pretty much every team. Every team sends somebody. So I'm next to
Right.
us was the Texans, behind me was the Raiders, in front of me was the Titans and the Steelers and the Colts, and we're all chatting. I had a very long talk with someone from the Bears about just kind of kicking around
Yes.
what they thought they were going to do, and so things like that, and then just long conversations with the guys I used to work with, DJ, who
Sure.
still, of course, does the games, but Bucky and
Right.
I used to do the
Right.
combine together. Lance Zierlein does the guys, Nate Tice from the Athletics, those from the Athletic, Matt Miller, who I've known forever, who now does it for ESPN, all of those guys. Mina, I caught up with Mina for a while, just kind of, so we're all just sort of comparing notes. And I think in addition to the quarterback thing, the other thing that comes out is that it's funny, I had someone I saw. So I had mentioned that Rome Odunze was going to light the combine on fire, and he did. It's incredible what the guy did out there. He was the best looking receiver. Now Malik Neighbors didn't do anything, nor did Marvin Harrison Jr. They did nothing. So Rome was far and away the best receiver out there. But at his size, at his weight, the 4.45 it's not four. A guy ran a 4.21, so people are like, oh, 4.45. That is lightning quick for that dude. Now he wanted to run in the 4.3s, and he was a little disappointed that he couldn't get into the 4.3s. He thought he could. 4.45 for 6'2" plus, 215 plus pounds. The way he moves, I mean, he just lit up the drills, and then all the routes, you can just see it. So I bring that up because I don't know if Marvin Harrison's going to be the number one receiver. It could very well be Odunze. It could very well be Malik Neighbors. Those three guys were talked about. A lot of people think it's going to go, before the combine, they were saying quarterback, 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 wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. That would be the order. Whether or not those teams would stick and pick those positions, don't know. But because, of what the wide receiver position has become in terms of finances, that's the order it would go in. So leaving it now sounds like it's probably going to go quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. It could go quarterback, receiver, receiver. So we'll see. But it seems like that's what a lot of people were focused on. Now, I'll say this, Lo, the defensive players definitely shined. You got some defensive players that can make a case. Dallas Turner, he is freaking explosive. I mean
Really.
explosive. And I would not have any issue if the Chargers got stuck at number 5 and went with corner or defensive end. I would have no problem with that. People might think it's a little bit of a reach, but if you think Turner opposite of Thule is going to give you bookend pass rushers for the next 10 years, go get it. If you like Terrion Arnold or whatever it may, if you want to go corner, go corner. I got no problem with that either. So I think that's something to realize. We focus so much on offense that I think the defensive players raised their hand and were like, "Oh no, we're here.
We're still here.
We're here, and we're pretty darn good too."
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think offense entertains, defense wins championships. You see the way that
Exactly.
sometimes Jones will see what he played for Kansas City in the middle and just destroy the offensive line of the San Francisco 49ers. When you talk about combines, Matt, and you're talking about all the things that you see and what the combines does for players. We talked about a kid from Fresno, breaking this 40 record. I mean, this
Yeah.
kid went to Central High School. So when you look at it, does that automatically put this guy in the first round? Because I'm on the other side. I don't think it should. But I think that it does mean that he can run by people. If he's even, and he's probably leaving. But what does that do when you see guys run that type of speed? What does that do for their draft, in your opinion?
What did it do for John Ross? He got picked one spot in front of Patrick Mahomes. It's look, he had a good year. He's at both those players, Worthy and Addy, are really good players for Texas. So if that's whatever whatever your particular flavor is and what you're looking for, I think look, he was going to be a top. I think he was going to probably be a top 60 pick anyway, top 50 pick. You go out there and you show off that kind of speed. Now, remember, he's 160 pounds. Like
Yeah.
I just talked about. So you want a guy that's clocking in at like 168, running 4.21, or do you want Rome at 6'2" plus, 215 pounds, running 4.45? Like that's
Give me that guy.
yeah. So I think that's sort of something to kind of remember is you still got to be able to shake off guys when they're trying to press you and blow you up at the line of scrimmage. You still got to be able to contest catches and be able to, absorb that contact, land on your feet, and keep on going. So I think there's
Sure.
there's something to that. But it's funny you mentioned that. You mentioned the 49ers, and like and look, the other thing to come out of the combine, I'll put this out there real quick. The offensive linemen are ridiculous. Like they just what wide receivers are turning into and what this offensive line class looks like. Like Joe Alt, I know that Charger fans look at him and they're like, we're really going to take this guy to play right tackle. I would never do this. And you played with him. So I know it is blasphemy that I'm even saying his name. But he's the size of J.O. He is that
That's not really.
big. He is 6'8", and he moves.
Wow.
He's got good feet. He's got good hands. The guy is 6'8". Joel is a massive human being. Like it's not like there's a reason why people are talking about him going number 5 overall. Like that's what I'm talking about. So like that's what people have to remember. This guy Amari Mims, dude, he's like Joe Alt's probably more like 6'7". Amari Mims is 6'7¾", 340
Wow.
pounds at a
Wow.
tackle, right? Like
It's hard to pass on that. I do. If you're the
exactly,
Chargers, it's hard to pass on because,
exactly.
like you said, you've got control for the next 5 years. You've got your quarterback. Now you have two offensive tackles that you said, okay, we're okay, because you can throw the ball. Now if you get a running back and you got your line solidified, I don't know. It's going to be hard for Harbaugh. I mean, because I wonder what they're going to do because, like you said, they're at 5. You're going to be in a great position for offense, defense, whatever you're going to have your pick.
Yeah. And I think and then here's what I pulled up. So go through what Jim Harbaugh did let's just start here. Let's start at what Jim Harbaugh did at Michigan and what he developed. Was he pumping wide receivers into the league? No. Last
No,
year,
no.
Mazi Smith. Now I had Shoemaker. These are the top 3 picks out of Michigan, and I either took the top 3 or I capped it in the 3rd round. So last year, Mazi Smith, the tight end Shoemaker, and then DJ Turner, defensive back. In 2022, Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end, Daxton Hill, the safety, David Ajabo, who would have been a first-round pick if he didn't break his leg, defensive end. 21, Kwity Paye, and Jalen Mayfield, the offensive tackle. Nico Collins, we know the wide receiver. I think he went in the 3rd. Ambry Thomas went in the 3rd as well, the linebacker.
Right.
2020, Cesar Ruiz is the first one, center. Uche, the linebacker. Bredesen, the center. That's 2020. 19, Devin Bush, linebacker. Rashawn Gary, defensive end. Chase Winovich, defensive end. David Long, defensive back. You see what I'm getting at? This guy,
I do.
Harbaugh knows how to develop. These guys aren't all 5 stars. These are 3
And
stars.
that's
He's putting these guys in the league.
and Matt, that's why I wonder, and that's why I always ask you these questions. Like, why do people put so much stock kind of on receivers when the quarterback's got to get them the ball? You look who's winning a national title. It's not necessarily guys with the best receiver. It's not necessarily guys with the best running back. It's not necessarily the guys with the best quarterback. It's that overall team, but it's tough. It's like you said, developing, understanding scheme, putting guys in the right position that do their jobs. But they still have to be good players because you can know what you're doing and just not be good enough,
Right.
and you'll get rickrolled.
Right.
So his players are good enough. So how do you balance this thing? And that's why I'm asking so many questions about this combines because I looked at it, man, I got to go to this combine, I got to go turn up, right? But it's like you put that weight on it, but how much does it really matter?
Combine
Is it
doesn't
really
matter
for
like
the
that.
agents and the teams?
Combine,
Is it for the teams
yeah,
mostly? What is it for?
what?
The
Yeah,
fans now? Is it
it's for the fans. It's open to the public now. Um, what I think it's for, what's it for? I look, it helps. It helps. I mean, it definitely helped in Quinyon Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo, because if you're talking about taking someone out of the MAC that's playing corner in the top 15, you're like, all right, are we really going to take a guy that played in the MAC and dominated? But I don't, it's such a premium position, and you're talking about the best athletes in the world taking on the best athletes in the world, wide receiver, corner. But then what does he do? He goes out to the combine and he tears it apart. Guy freaking I think he put up 225 20 times. And he ran
wow,
a 4.3
wow,
240. And he went to the
fly,
Senior Bowl and was the best, one of the best players, if not the best player at the Senior Bowl. Like, so all of that stuff goes into, okay, I think I know what I see on tape, but it's against, not Power 5 competition. Oh, okay, well, here's all the athleticism that I saw. And so what it does is it just kind of confirms. It's like, okay, I think I know what I see with the Dunze, but let me just make sure. And then you get the drills and you see the three cone and you see the explosiveness on the broad and on the vert. And it's like, yeah, Chop Robinson, the defensive end out of Penn State, like the freaking guys runs 280 something pounds. He runs a 4.49 40 and he's jumping 36 inches. Like, yeah, okay, we saw that. We saw what looked like Micah Parsons a little bit on the field, but the production wasn't there. But now we know that's what he is. He is this giant freak of an athlete. And by the way, I don't know who the Penn State, we got the best strength guy in the nation in Ben Herbert. Whoever's at Penn
yeah.
State, somebody better go get him because I'm telling you, man, like the Penn State players blew up the combine. So that's the thing. It's like you can then raise your hand. Like, was Worthy a first round pick before he ran a 4.21? No. Now he might be, you know.
Gotcha,
So that's
gotcha.
kind of what it'll do. And I just wanted to make sure I had the numbers right. Yeah, Joe Alt, 6'8", 322 pounds.
Wow, that's a mammoth of a man.
Crazy.
No
Yeah,
question.
it's crazy.
You have the 53-man roster, right? And then you have 5 guys practice squad, right?
Right.
So when you look at that, Matt, so you think the combines, you think about that, you think of what training camp is now. You can only go once a day, twice a day. You can't put on pads, all the different things that you have to do now. It's hard really to make a team. So do you think, what is the number? Is the number, if I said 35, if I told you 35 guys on each team that's on the team, 35 of those guys are still they're set, and then there's 10 to 15 up for grabs, or how do you look
I
at the
mean,
number?
what do you think, Lo? I don't know what that number is because I don't know. It's a completely different style of football that these guys want to play.
Yes,
So,
right.
you got a lot of free agents, and
That's
then you've got a lot of contracts that you've got to figure out. So if you just start with those, it's, we already know the answer on Eric Kendricks. He's gone, was cut yesterday. So, he's out. You have the contracts of Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. In terms of other contracts that they could cut loose, I can't really think of too many. Um, I think in terms of free agents, Mike Davis, Mikey Davis, the corner. You got Alohi Gilman, the safety. Kenneth Murray, the linebacker. They already cut J.C. Jackson. He's out of here. Let's see. We got the both defensive. Sebastian Joseph, they already cut. Austin Johnson, free agent. So, and then tight ends. Gerald Everett, free agent. So like, and then you go wide receiver, Jalen Guyton, free agent, like all those guys. And those are just sort of the lower half of the roster. I'm just
right,
thinking of guys that
right,
are starters. Corey
right.
Linsley's going to retire. So when you start going through running backs, Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly, both free agents. So yeah, you're talking about a lot, an influx of players. And I think if it were up to Coach Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz, they'd probably like their 8 draft picks to turn into 11 or 12. And they'd like to see all those guys make the team. They would love to populate this roster because it is too veteran. It really had become way too veteran laden, way too many veteran contracts on this team, and not enough young talent had been able to stick around, or they'd not been able to make the roster just over the last 3-4 years. So I think that's, if it were up to them, yeah, you're probably talking about 12, 13, that's a lot. 12's a lot. You're probably talking about what they would like to be 9 rookies to be on the 53. I think that'd be a good thing for them. If that were the number they got to, that'd probably make them pretty
Wow.
darn happy
Wow.
to start getting these guys in, developing them into their program, and getting things right on that front. So, and then just another name that popped out. I'm thinking about it. We know. Look at the tight end room. Tight end room is basically empty. It needs to be
It
completely
is.
rebuilt. So Theo Johnson out of Penn State, another Penn State guy who blew up the combine and was just fantastic. So like that's the sort of thing that the combine can do. It's like, yeah, I thought he looked pretty athletic, but he didn't get a lot of reps. Didn't have a lot of targets, didn't have a lot of production. But I think I saw it, and oh yeah, here it is. Here he is. Pushing the sled freaking 10 yards down the field. Here he is running the gauntlet and hitting over 20 miles an hour. Here he is, catching
Wow.
passes. So like there's things like that that can cause you to go, okay, that's what I saw. That's what I saw, but the production's not there. Just want to make sure, and now I'm sure.
What do you think that Joe Ortiz and Harb saw? What do you if we ask you? I know you can't
Yeah.
just you got a crystal ball, but what do you think that they saw that they like make you say, okay, they could do
Yeah,
this?
I don't envy them because I think it's going to be a very tough decision at 5. I think it's really really tough, and I just think about, and I almost wonder if it's going to be like a tough decision, as the two of them are collaborating and trying to come to a decision at 5. I think ultimately they'd like to trade down. When you talk about wide receiver, and as great as those wide receivers are, the gap between them, and especially when you have Justin Herbert throwing the ball, he's going to make a first round receiver an elite receiver, kind of thing. Now I get it with Quentin last year, but we all saw that with Quentin. Everybody did, that this was going to be a project, that this was, so you just go back and watch his gauntlet. He gathers and he's not sure handed, and that's what he showed on tape. And it's like, okay, we know there's issues. The size is incredible. The athleticism is incredible. If he can get the receiver thing sorted out, the physical traits are great. But you got to be a receiver first before you can just be a big
Right.
dude that's fast. So that needs to get sorted out. But I think when you look at Ricky Pearsall, who was great out of Florida, and compares, I thought DJ had the perfect comparison. And because I do love, and I think when you see a white wide receiver, just the lazy thing to do is, oh, it's Cooper Kupp, it's Puka Nacua.
Right.
DJ was like, no, Ricky Pearsall's Chris Olave. Watch the way he runs his routes. Look at the size. Look at the strength. And I thought it was such a perfect comparison. So when you're talking about Chris Olave comp, and you're talking about late in the first round, maybe the top of the second round, that's how deep this wide receiver class is. So
Wow.
that's
Wow.
why, I could see them like, hey, let's trade down, and Jim being like, but Joe Alt is 6'8" and 330, or Dallas Turner is freaking running a 440 at 240 pounds coming off the edge, or I want. Did you see Terry and Arnold's hips and how fluid he is? We need corners. We need. And like that's, and I know we're kind of going a little bit long here, which reminds me, Bet Online continues to be your number one source for all your basketball wagering needs, pro and college throughout the year. The tournament's coming up. You get up to the minute odds, you get stats, trends, follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting. That's always fun. Contests and the best player props. Get the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or on your mobile devices. Head over to BetOnline today. Become part of the team. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV. BLEAV is the promo code for 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline. The game starts here. I forgot where I was now. What was I?
No, we're just talking
Oh,
about
oh,
the combines. And you said you don't want to be in there. You don't want to be in their
yeah.
shoes because there's so many. It's a plethora of people out there, and receivers in the late rounds. Second, you're talking about a guy. Olave. If comparing him
Yeah.
to Olave, that's freaking an unbelievable comparison. So you're talking about that, and maybe in the second round or late first. That's
Yeah.
crazy to think that you have that type of talent still
And I
available.
mean, I talked about the offensive lineman, all first rounder. Graham Barton, interior, if you want center or guard, first rounder. Fashanu, Penn State, just crazy athleticism at left tackle, can move to right tackle, I'm sure. Fatanu out of Washington, he's going to go in the top 15. Fuaga out of Oregon State is going to go in the top 15. Tyler Guyton's going to go in the top 20 out of Oklahoma. He's a freaking supreme athlete that's just scratching the surface. J.C. Latham might be the one that fits the Chargers the best. He is a right tackle and a massive, massive human being, and yet still an athlete out of Alabama. So, like, that's just Amari Mims out of Georgia, only 8 starts, but I told you, 6'8", 340 pounds, and athletic.
Wow.
Like, that's what we're talking about, and why we keep pointing out the trade down options, because there's so many. It's a deep, deep first round. And like I'll leave with this because I know I've been talking a lot. And I hate when I do that because I don't like hearing myself talk. I'm an idiot.
No, I
Um,
enjoy it. I mean, this is great. Don't think the listeners don't enjoy it. You've been at the combine. You're
yeah.
there. You're up close and personal. This is a different than the season. This is like, hey, people want to know where the Chargers are at. You got to realize this season was very disappointing.
Yeah.
You just got a new coach, new GM. It's like, what are they going to do? Because they're going to get rid of a lot of these guys because they want to build, and the fans are going to be anticipating what is money saying, because they are going to give Harbaugh the keys to this and saying, look, you're going to have to go away because what happened? The guys that were on this team the last 3 to 4 years, let's face it, man, it's not been good enough. It
No.
hasn't gotten with the talent that they have. It's not been good enough. So you are going to have this team overhauled, and the listeners want to know, what are they going to do and how are they going to build this
Yeah. So
team?
I'll finish with this, and I think it's different because you asked the perfect question, Lo. Like, hey, what are we talking about? 35 players that are back next year? Is it less than that? This is a different situation. This roster is already, because of the free agents, because of the age, because of the money, because of the draft picks and all the value that they're going to get because they had such a bad year last year. They're picking number 5 in the first round. They're picking high in the second, the third. They get high picks in every round. It doesn't change. They're going to build it in his image because they're going to populate it with new players. So it's not like he's coming in and you always hear, oh, the best coaches adapt to their players. He doesn't have to adapt to the players. They're going to all be
No.
his players. So when I went through that list from Michigan, there's one wide receiver on that list, Nico Collins. Now, he's a great wide receiver. He's become a number 1 guy down there in Houston. But that's it. Everything else, and what have they done since he's, the last 3 years? Playoff, national championship. And they're doing it with defensive linemen and offensive linemen. That's who's getting drafted. That's what I rattled off. It's DNs and it's offensive linemen and some corners. This year they got one receiver, Roman Wilson. He's probably going to go in the second round. They got, in the meantime, they've got linemen, defensive linemen. Chris Jenkins probably going to go at the top of the second round. So, like, Sanastril is going to go, probably in the third round, the corner. Junior Colson's probably going to go in the second round, the linebacker. Like, that's what Barner, the tight end, is probably going to go maybe fourth round. That's what he's putting in the NFL. That's what he's winning the national championship with. O-line, D-line, physicality, drag him into the deep end, pull him under in the fourth quarter. That's how he plays football and how he's always played football. So I don't know why. And if they do, I get it, because then you would subscribe to the best player available philosophy. Like if they take Rome or Marvin Harrison Jr. at 5, it's because they're like, well, we just take the best player. We don't care positionally, style. This was our highest graded player. We were at 5, and that's who we took. And so that's why they would take wide receiver, and that's fine. If you can't go wrong taking best player available. But I just think because it's the majority of the canvas is blank. There are some parts of it that are already painted, but there is so much that is still blank, and it's an opportunity to change it from, whatever. Let's just say Justin Herbert's a Clipper ship. Harbaugh has a chance to change it from a flat ocean with a beautiful sun, glistening off glass-like conditions, to rough seas and dark clouds, and and so like that's the thing. They have a chance to do that, and I think that's because there is so much physicality available in this draft. I think ultimately,
and I think that. Right, and that's what Harbaugh is. I mean, he's a guy that can turn into a Sugar Ray Leonard. If you want him to go toe to toe, if you want him to steal rounds and pepper you, He's gonna, if he want him to go physical, hey, he can mix it up. He can turn into Mike Tyson. You're right. He's so diverse when you're talking about this guy as a coach. And when you're talking about physicality, talking about what you talk about with Michigan, what he did with Michigan, look what he did with the
Yeah.
49ers. It was a physical type of team, just like you're saying, that would go take you to deep water, the fourth quarter. Here they go. They're going to take your heart away from you. That's how he built his teams. That's how he builds. So that's what the Charger fans have to be ready for Harbaugh to come in here and start building a
Yeah,
bully.
we'll finish with this, Lo. I'm glad you mentioned that. Who's more important to those 49er teams? Was it Ahmad Brooks, Alden Smith, Justin Smith, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, or was it Michael Crabtree and Mario Manningham? Was it Joe Staley and
The,
Frank Gore, or was it Michael Crabtree? Was it Vernon Davis?
it
Was
was
it
what
Delaney Walker?
it's right. Right. Just guys. He had, like you said, those guys you talk about, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, Justin Smith. He had that defense, and that's how he won. Physicality, tough guys on offense, tough guys on defense, just physical. Crabtree wasn't but he was tough. He was
Yeah,
physical. He wasn't no great receiver. He has Frank Gore, tough. Wasn't necessarily a guy that can just break a long touchdown. He was tough. Justin Smith, you're talking about what Harbaugh builds. He wants tough,
right.
physical guys that have that tough
Yeah,
skin.
and I think that's like Michael Crabtree was a really good receiver. He wasn't a top 10, top 15 receiver in the league.
No,
No, that's not
no,
how he
not even
won.
close.
But you know
Not
what?
even
Joe
close.
Staley was in the conversation as one of the best left tackles, and
Yep,
Alden Smith was in the conversation as the best defensive end when he had nearly 20 sacks in a season. And Patrick Willis was the best linebacker in the league. I can tell you that. And
yep.
and after years of being called a total bust, Vernon Davis turned into a pretty damn good tight end when Jim Harbaugh got there. So, like, just think about what has worked for him, how his teams have
Right.
excelled. And you're talking about a guy that went to Super Bowl, went to the Super Bowl and back-to-back NFC championship games, doing this, playing this way. And again, I'll just wrap. And because I was at the combine and I'm trying to field questions and answer people's questions, I was on social media a lot more than I typically am. So just to see all of the incredible amount of, we better take Malik Neighbors. This is you dummies. You'll screw this up if you take a lineman. It's like, do you not watch how this man coaches, and do you not
Right.
understand what the success level is of of what he's been able to accomplish playing this particular style of football? Trust him.
With average quarterbacks.
Yeah.
With average
Yeah, trust
quarterbacks.
him. Trust him and Joe Ortiz, who's done it in Baltimore, and they've been the most consistent team in the AFC over the last 20 years. Trust that they know more than you do, that they're going to get this right, that they've got it figured out. So that's what I'll leave it with.
But that's great. Thanks, Matt. You're
You're the
the best.
best. All right, we went long today. I hope you enjoyed it, but whatever. We're coming off the cuff.
Oh, I did. You got me out of my, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
feeling
And
better
you know
already.
what? Next week, what is today? The 6th? Yeah. So next week, league year. We'll know what this thing looks like,
Yes.
what these contracts look
Yep.
like, who's on the
Yep.
team, who's not with the big
Yep.
money, and we'll be able to dig into
Yep.
that. So expect a long one next week. All
Let's
right.
do it.
Be sure to check out again all of the different spots where you can get Believe stories, SI.com, Believe TV around the country on YouTube. That's BLEAV, as this is Believe in Charges. We appreciate all you listening. Again, subscribe, comment, rate, and tell all your friends about us. That'd be great.